8. Relative safety. Train southbound new time. Day 1. They traveled for an hour or so. Somewhere in there, Ashley dozed off again. They got past the risk area. The train never quit, but they were at least high enough level now to where the water from the lake didn't have enough physical volume to reach them. Ashley thought that would be the most of their worries, but she wasn't too concerned. These people had a lot of important animals and some farm equipment, and so they must be going to safety and have this well planned. They had to slow down, though, and this didn't seem like the best area. Some people had to get out and change the directions of the tracks so they could go a different route. Ashley stayed inside her cart, but listened intently. She didn't want to blow her cover in case they got upset about her being there. All she could decipher was something about how the main freeway was completely underwater and washed out, despite the multiple recent prior collapse renovations. This track must have been scheduled to run along that route, and they couldn't take it, so they routed the train in another direction. Ashley didn't pay it much mind, though, and used the opportunity to rest more. Before long, they were back on their way. Ashley drifted back off, imagining the new awesome area she'd probably be going to. She imagined finding a utopia where all the birds were just like her, where she could be among her own kind. Dark red flying chickens everywhere, all working towards the greater good of chicken kind. They crackled along for a while, and then the train stopped again, this time more abruptly. 9. Obstacle course. Train southeast, southwest, ? Afternoon, day 1. It took forever for the train to completely stop, but it finally did. All of the humans hopped out this time, including men with rifles. Ashley hopped out as well, then got on the roof to help survey. She hopped forward a few cars and discovered that the hill had crashed down on the train tracks and road. It would take weeks to clear the road, but they only needed to clear the train tracks, which would probably take a few hours with the humans' giant tools. Ashley looked around and saw everyone facing trees, then facing each other again, then started getting their big machines out one at a time. It was a good thing Ashley got out of the equipment, or they might be upset at Ashley for sleeping in their machinery. The men with rifles started to go scouting, and Ashley decided that would be a good time for her to go to the bathroom as well. She wouldn't go just anywhere, especially not on the nice people's equipment. She had to find a special secluded spot, so nobody would see or bother her. Had to focus, plus she was shy. Ashley got to the edge of the train car she was on, wiggled her butt, and then shoved off as hard as she could. She was airborne for a second or two with her legs out, and then flapped her wings as hard as her little heart would allow. Before anyone could turn to find the ruckus, she was safely in the forest looking for a toilet spot. Ashley passed the guys scouting on their way to find a potty spot. The protection team was looking down at the ground and to the sides. They weren't looking up, which made that sound like the optimal private spot to relieve herself. Ashley flapped to a tree and then hopped a few branches and then repeated the process. She got ahead of them maybe 50 yards, and she felt something, like her nature side was taking back over, that she had before she shuffled in with the chickens. Ashley stopped her flapping and hopped and looked around, her head pivoting and angling while her body stayed still. Ashley scanned back and forth until zooming her eyes in on a piece of tree that looked wrong. She fluttered over to it and thought maybe it looked like a good bathroom spot. It wasn't moving when she stood on it and wasn't shaped like a tree, but oh well. She got on top of it and pooped all over it. Much to Ashley's dismay, the thing that she relieved herself on started screaming, and then fell out of the tree, hitting the ground with a heavy thump. It was a person. The person limped around and screaming and had a gun with them. He tried dropping and rolling, but her excrement was stuck to him. It cracked her up a bit with satisfaction that only birds have from crapping on humans from above. This thrashing and yelling alerted the scouts from her train. Shots rang out towards the train convoy scouts, but they all missed due to being revealed prematurely. Ashley didn't like this one bit. People shooting at her human friends? She didn't like any birds being shot at, but she understood some birds were going to get shot. It was a part of bird life, after all. When it was your time to go, it was your time to go, Ashley's mama always said. Ashley thought to herself, I've got to live life to the fullest, like Mama wanted. Ashley used her super focus to find the next person shooting and went over to his branch and started jumping up and down on it. The guy tried to hold onto the branch and shoo Ashley away, but she wasn't having it. Seconds later, a bullet slammed that person's center mass and he fell with a thud. Ashley decided she could make this into a fun game and went to where the next person was shooting down at the train scouts. She went into stealth mode, tucking in tight and quietly hopped to the next guy shooting. Inch by inch, she crept up behind him. Right as the bad guy was taking careful aim, Ashley hopped onto his shoulder and tightened her talons more than she ever had before. It felt absolutely exhilarating to feel her talons sink in. The massive relief of endorphins made her feel amazing in places she never had before. Ashley's eyes rolled in the back of her head as she relished in raw ecstasy. Completely distracted, she didn't register several shots, tagging the person ending the threat. She was still clawed into the screaming, quickly expiring body. All at once, reality reformed around her, and she reflexively let go as the body rolled backwards off the tree and smashed into the ground with authority. Ashley hovered in the air for a few seconds, flapping, without even realizing it, and looked for her next target. She looked around, seeing her next target. This guy wasn't right, though. They weren't shooting at the scouts. The bad guy was actually shooting at the train, and the animals, and the train workers. Those people weren't even fighting. These people are horrible. Ashley seethed. She flapped heroically through the gunfire and clumsily fell right into one of the gunman's faces, gouging at his eyes with her talons and serrated beak. He fell from his tree to the ground, got up and screamed around. Ashley lamented to herself sarcastically. Wah, I have no eyes. Look at me, I have no eyes. Wah. What kind of psycho shoots at animals in a cage that can't even move anyway? Ashley turned her gaze to the last of the tree people who were shooting down at her train friends. Then a bullet took her in the wing. The momentum made her feel like she did 50 rolls as she hit the ground hard. The last thing she remembered was hearing the last of the bullets being fired as the threat got cleared. 10 voices. Train moving? Question mark, day 1, question mark, evening, question mark. Yeah, this red falcon thing really saved us. It isn't a falcon, is it? It's more like a chicken. Yeah, but it has a weird plume, like a peacock, sort of. Why does it burn everything it touches? Noticed a burn mark about her shape in my backhoe when I was putting it back from getting the track cleared. Has it been with us all along? It don't burn too bad, you simply can't hold on to her for too long. Leaves ash everywhere, though. Her? Maybe. How do you tell bird gender? No clue. Ah, shit, my hand. Well, don't touch her, dumbass. Need some kind of special blanket or something. I think I got something. Keep it from moving so it doesn't hurt itself. 11. On the move. Train southbound. Day 2. Morning. Ashley opened her eyes, blinked, and then jolted up. She moved her wing, and it was fine. She wiggled her butt and realized she was in a comfy blanket, in a cabin full of armed men. How the heck is she already healed like that? You got me. Ashley froze, never have been this close to a bunch of humans in an enclosed space before. She tried to back up and was wrapped up too tight and then bonked into something soft behind her. Ashley looked around nervous, but everyone tensed up and froze. Hey, I think we're freaking it out. Someone open a window or something. Someone opened a window and then went back down to their seat. It was far away from everyone, so it couldn't be a trick. None of them were fast enough to catch her anyway. Well, if they wanted to hurt her, they could have done it already. Plus, she thought she recognized the voices from when she got hurt. They all seemed to relax. She wiggled out of the blanket cautiously. Nobody moved or flinched, and then Ashley got up, stretched, and grabbed her blanket in her beak. And then she flew to the open seat next to the window, set her blanket back down, wiggled her butt, and then nestled back into the blanket. This made everyone happy, and they stared at her with delight. She had made a bunch of friends. They weren't the friends she wanted, but the friends she needed. One of them seemed to have a thought and brought some seeds over. He held it out with her hand, but Ashley didn't want to eat out of his hand. Civilized birds don't eat out of hands. Gross. Ashley was definitely a civilized bird. She turned her head in a humph, but kept one eye open to watch. The guy realized he had offended her and put the seeds down near her, then went back to his bench to watch. He pressed his hands together under his chin and watched with interest. Ashley waited for him to sit down, and then with one eye on him, picked up a single seed in her beak. She rolled it around in her mouth with her tongue and then crunched down on it. Marvelous flavors swashed over her, and she proceeded to happily eat all the seeds. When she finished, she looked up to see if they had any more. She still hadn't even had breakfast from the day before, and it was already breakfast the next day, and this was just still a snack. They all shrugged, so she wiggled her butt and laid back down. Hopefully she could find something to eat when they stopped. The train moved really slow and had to take a lot of detours, so minutes seemed like hours and vice versa. The choo-choo convoy made stops near a few farms to unload some of the animals, and Ashley got out every time to see what was going on. Each area was well guarded with more people like the train guards she had helped earlier. There'd be some outer farms in an inner defended circle, patrols every once in a while, fairly decent defensive positions, and everyone seemed really friendly.